John, Paul, George and Ringo are part of the biggest band of all time. Their albums in the UK had collectively spent 176 weeks at number 1 and over 1,000 weeks in the UK top 40. The blame game over who broke up the Beatles has been going on for over half a century now. Their split was such a spectacle, referenced and joked about in pop culture from Family Guy to Jay-Z.
Yoko Ono, she got that Yoko Ono. You know that made John Lennon go solo. Know that gotta be lethal. If that broke up the Beatles.
Today in Music Rewind, we're looking at the reasons as to why the Beatles disbanded and who broke them up. Feel free to debate below what you think.
Why do you think Paul McCartney is leaving?
Don't really know why. The only person I can really blame or put anything on is Linda. All of us really. Is Linda Eastman.
Linda Eastman was a photographer and Paul McCartney's first wife. They met at the Bag O' Nails Club in 1967 and married in 1969. Paul was very smitten with her and started to be influenced by some aspects of her personality. Paul started dressing less formally, wearing, as his friends describe, as simpler clothes and not shaving because of Linda's carefree attitude, which he admired. When they got married in March of 1969, British fans were upset, partly because Paul was the last bachelor of the group and their fantasies were crushed. Fans were negative about the wives of both Paul and John Lennon, but we'll get to Yoko very soon. Due to her influence over Paul, fans have blamed Linda Eastman for convincing Paul to go solo and controlling him. But let's talk about the man himself. On April 9th, 1970, Paul McCartney releases a Q&A package to the press and answered presumed questions about his split from the Beatles. 8 days later, we get his self-titled debut album, McCartney. Paul started recording the album in December 1969 during a depressive period since John Lennon had left the band. The album was a very lo-fi record as Paul created himself a home studio with a stutter 4-track tape recorder without a mixing desk, which meant he was recording everything without a VU display to tell him how loud the frequency and the levels were. Now Paul gets some of the blame here because he didn't want to delay his debut album to make way for the band's final scheduled album, Let It Be, on their record label Apple, which caused a drift between the band members. Alongside this, Paul was villainized by the media as he was promoting his album and basically breaking up the Beatles. The Q&A he released also received massive backlash because he seamlessly confirmed the band's fate, while he claimed to not know whether his break with the Beatles would be permanent or temporary. He may have also burnt a few bridges when he talked about his former bandmates. While making the album, he said he didn't miss Ringo Starr's drumming nor his bandmates' contributions, and couldn't see himself and Lennon ever writing a song together. In response, John Lennon criticized Paul by saying it's a simple fact that McCartney can't have his own way, so he's causing chaos. I put out 4 albums last year and I didn't say a word about quitting. On that note, let's talk about Mr. Lennon himself. John Lennon quit the band in September 1969. But he didn't inform the media so the band could renegotiate their contract. Lennon's contributions to the band's split are credited to his drug problems. In 1965, a dentist at a party introduced him and George Harrison to LSD. The experience made him believe that the club they were going to was on fire. LSD was said to have wrecked his first marriage to Cynthia Lennon, and the drug use only increased and worsened with heroin. Plus, his political activism and alleged anti-war crimes, as reported by the FBI, caused a rift between him and the band. It's worth mentioning though that before he officially quit the band, John released a few solo projects of his own, but not alone. Now we introduce Yoko Ono. The tale of Yoko Ono breaking up the Beatles is one that goes back years. Yoko Ono was John Lennon's second wife, married only a week after Paul and Linda. It's said that Paul wanted Yoko Ono everywhere. John said he felt the tension it caused between him and the band. They met in a gallery in London 1966 and had an affair in 1968. Now people seem to blame Yoko for the same reason they blame Linda. However, Yoko gets more blame because both she and John developed heroin addiction. Many blaming her for it, and also they released multiple collaboration albums together while John was still in the Beatles. It's said that after the release of the song The Ballad of John and Yoko, they both decided it would be best to form a new band to release new music, which is now known as the Plastic Ono Band. That and the influence Yoko had over John Lennon leads fans to believe that she is the reason for the split.
Jim, meet my girlfriend, Yoko Ono. She's beloved by everyone close to me and prides herself on not messing with a good thing.
I'm just gonna get out of the way and let you guys do your music. You won't even know I'm here.
Overall, it's difficult to place specific blame on anyone for the split. By the looks of it, the Beatles might have just wanted to continue because of their ongoing commercial success, but if the passion was still in it anymore is still up for debate. George Harrison was the first to leave the group because he felt undervalued, while John and Paul slowly left after. However, Paul sealed the fate by insulting his band members while promoting his own album. To end the video, here are a few clips of the Beatles themselves talking about the split and who they think are to blame.
Well, all of that about her being the problem with the group, is that slightly silly that one woman could be so much of a problem?
No, the group had problems long before Yoko came along.
Do you think you might have been the most anxious of the four to get out? I get that impression from reading about
Maybe,
all of you,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Over the years, I had such a lot of songs mounting up that I really wanted to do, but I only got my quota of 1 or 2 tunes per album. That way I would have had to have recorded about 100 Beatle albums just to get out the tunes I had in 1965.
Were you held down by the other fellas?
Well, very subtly, yes.
How would they do it?
Really,
I mean,
they didn't strap me down or anything like that.
Yeah.
But, no, it was just the way things happened, It started off I didn't write, they wrote, then I started to write, and it was sort of trying to push in a bit.
Why did they want it? Do you know?
Why? No, because we all wanted it.
Oh, okay.
Because we'd all grown up a little more, and we weren't prepared to put in the time and energy for each other. But if you look even through the breakup, as soon as the counting came in, we all gave our best, and that always worked. The music was always important.
There's many stories about why they broke up. Why did
The
you
Beatles
guys,
broke up?
Yeah, why did you break up? The essence.
Essence, I think it was time. I always remember the old song Wedding Bells of breaking up that old gang of mine, the army buddies, the band, and you've got to grow up, you've got to get married, you've got to get girlfriends and have babies and things, and you don't do that in a band.
Was it angry?
Yeah, it got a bit bitter towards the end. We had a sort of strange manager guy who came in from New York, and that got bitter. It got a bit of a feud thing going, so we started bitching at each other.
When they break up, all right? And who knows who broke? Everyone has a theory.
I know.
Who broke it up?
John.
John did.
Yeah.
And he tried to pin it all on you.
No, I don't think anyone tried to pin it on it. It just came out that way. That's a long story. But there was a meeting where John came in and said, "Hey, guys, I'm leaving the group."
Right. He was with Yoko.
He'd found Yoko, even though we thought, oh, God, a bit intrusive. She used to sit in on the recording sessions, and we'd never had anything like that.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, you think the guy was totally in love with her.
Yeah.
And, you've just got to respect that.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because Yoko, you've even been called the Dragon Lady, who the lady who brought the Beatles apart and took them all apart. I have trouble with English.
Can we please give her the credit for all the nice music that George made and Ringo made and Paul made and I've made since they broke up? If she did it. Anyway, she didn't split the Beatles because how could one girl split the Beatles or one woman? The Beatles were drifting apart on their own.